Hello, welcome to News 24. My name is Tshidi Madia. We're coming to you live from Nasrec, where the EFF is hosting its second National People's Assembly. In simple terms, they're hosting the elective conference, the second one, where they'll elect new leaders to take the party forward, at least for the next 5 years. Now, yesterday I said that there wasn't a lot happening. So there's a little bit happening, but not really a lot still from where we are. That's the media area. We've seen a lot of security. I think they are the Department of the Defenders of the Revolution, that's what they call the DOR. People, you can see the security around. You've seen a lot of movements around people who are cleaning the premises. We've seen a few EFF leaders, at least the first two. I've seen Godrich Gadi, I've seen Buyiseni Ndlozi. It's going to be a long day today. They'll be nominating rather, at about 10 in the evening, somewhere around there. But before then, we are going to speak to some of the leaders. And before then, there'll be an organizational report that's delivered by the SG, that's Godrich Gadi. There'll be a political report that's coming from the leader of the party, Julius Malema. I think they'll also be fun. So it's a jam-packed day. I understand delegates are arriving on the other side of the conference, and we'll take it from there. But for now, I'm joined by the SG of the EFF, outgoing SG, whether he likes it or not, Godrich Gadi. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Tshidi. I don't like that other part of it, but it's fine.
Saying outgoing.
But
you're hanging your hat today. This is the end for now. You might return, but for now, this is it.
Well, all of us is the end of the term. We knew that come 2019, as we were being elected in 2014, that there will be an elective conference. All of us is the end of the term.
Yeah, so now you deliver the organizational report today. What has gone into it? I do understand that it wasn't just done by you alone. There's a lot of people who've been partners with you in putting together the state of the organization over the past 5 years. What's gone into it?
Well, you present the first draft to the officials. The officials then agrees with you and do some amendments and assist you where there are some omissions, and then we take the report to the War Council, and then it becomes the report of the officials to the War Council. The War Council looks at it, critique it, and make some inputs. And once incorporated, it goes to the Central Command team. Now it becomes the War Council report, no longer an SG's report. From the CCT, once it is presented and approved with amendments and the inputs, and then it goes to this plenary. And then this plenary is no longer an SG's report, it's the report of the CCT to the plenary, to the National People's Assembly in terms of the Constitution.
I'm not going to ask you what's in it because you're going to tell me to wait, which is fine. I have no issues waiting. But when you're initially putting it together, what were your thoughts? What is it that you wanted to communicate to the EFF supporters? But more beyond the NPA is that even potential electorates, even potential voters will also be watching, even the media. What is it that you wanted to get across in your particular report at the initial stages?
It's not about your wishes, what you wanted to put in there. It's a conventional structure of an organizational report. You need to say, we met on this day, how many delegates were there, what were the resolutions, who were elected, how did we serve, who did what, and what programs we were involved in, how far did we go in implementing those resolutions, what are the limitations and challenges, what were the strides and achievements made, what are the recommendations to the plenary moving forward, and then you conclude.
What sort of an organization do you hand back to the EFF? You've been in charge of the engine, the heartbeat, the operations of the organization. What sort of an organization are you handing back after 5 years being at the helm of this particular office?
Well, we are very much objective and very much confident that that CCT that was elected in 2014, it comes today to account and for others to get a mandate and to get a mandate, and we are presenting a well-united, a united organization back to its rightful owners, the representatives of the membership.
I like how you're making it very collective, you know, intact, we. But you were the head of this particular department, the head of the engine, I keep saying, of the movement. As Godrich Gadi, are you proud of the work you've done in the past 5 years? The judgments you've made, the judgment calls you've made about members, about branches, about the different structures. Are you proud of your individual inputs?
Well, it is very impossible to disassociate yourself and to identify yourself outside the collective. But one can say we have collectively tried our best, and our best there is room for improvement,
Always.
and we will definitely actually allude to in the organizational report.
Gigi, there's a lot of harsh criticism about your role as an individual in the party. I mean, I speak to people, and I think some have referred to you as incompetent, as being divisive, as being a wedge driver of an SG who's allowed for particular people to be sidelined. What's your reaction to views like that about the way you played your role? Because I have to come back to you. Even if you're a collective, you are at the helm of this particular office. You're responsible for the operations of this organization.
I'm not a Holy Spirit. I can't be everywhere. I'm not money. I can't be liked by every person. And from time to time, there will be conflicts and confrontations. But what remains as a fact is that we're all committed to what we agreed to, the program of the economic freedom fighters. We have to live with those limitations and challenges. We will come and go. Others will also suffer the same criticism.
Are you proud of the role you've played? Are you proud of, when you speak about the differences of opinions and the issues and the conflicts, are you proud of how you've handled them as the SG of the EFF?
In the circumstances, we can say proudly so that we have handled them very well. We could not have handled them in any other way. It was the best that we could do in the circumstances.
There's lots of division also around the quality of the branches of the EFF, where some people will say the branches are launching, they're in good health, they are interested in the state of the party and the role it plays in the country, while others are like, but the branches are actually a formation of friends, that if you're to study the EFF branches, it's made up of a lot of friends coming together, and they're interested in the leadership squabbles and not the policy position of the EFF. They're not interested in sharpening what the offering is, be it on gender issues, on health issues, on education, on the state of the state, in essence, and what needs to happen should you come into the state, on coalition governments. Those things are often, the parties often criticize that at a basic level, your members are not interested in that. What is your assessment of the branches of the party?
I would rather say ask that question immediately after the delivery of the organizational report, because much of what you have raised with me is actually well documented, and a detailed report to that regard is in the organizational report. And by the time we finish delivering the organizational report, you will actually have another view, and your question is more likely to be different from that.
I might have an answer. Maybe you'll tell me that the branches are great. And then let's speak about, just very quickly, I know I'm running out of time with you. I also want to speak about you, you know. If your name is called out tonight at the nominations, which are taking place this evening,
yes,
are you going to accept it? Are you willing to do another tenure?
Well, I wouldn't agree with you that you're competent to ask that question. Let's allow the branches
It's not about whether I'm competent or not, but I'm asking it anyway.
Well, it can only be asked by the branches, and when the question is put to me by the electoral commissions, that will be called upon to answer, because it might as well not arise. You never know. It may arise. We will have to answer there, but it could be very speculative and dangerous and unorganizational and ill-disciplined to even think that it might arise or might not arise. We were called to serve. We will hear whether we're being called to serve again, and we'll answer that question to those who actually have the authority and competence to ask that question.
And if you're not called to serve, what's your plan B? What happens with Godrich Kadi's journey in politics going forward?
No, don't fast forward. Just leave
you don't want to be called outgoing SG. You don't want to answer if you are remaining or if you are interested. And then I ask you about the way forward, and you also don't want that question.
No,
Gigi, you must give us something.
No, there's nothing to give you. This is a conference. There are proceedings as and when they proceed. I'm just available from time to time to come to your studio, and I'm very certain that with you and your character, I'll be the first one to be called immediately after the nominations have been completed.
Whether you stay or not.
So
you'll accept whatever the will of the NPA is. If they don't want you back, you're happy to accept it. If they want you back, you'll happily accept that?
Well, let's leave it for that time when it comes.
One's got to try. Yesterday at the media briefing, I asked you about former leaders, former members who have been expelled or resigned. What is the actual position on those? Because you said yes, you confirmed that letters had been written. What I couldn't find, and I went through some of your documents last night, I couldn't find clear positions from your constitution or resolutions about people not being allowed to come back, or what the position is. What is just give me quick clarity on what will happen with these letters. What's the way forward for these people?
There is a very detailed report, a very detailed chapter specifically on section D25 of the Code of Conduct dealing with those letters.
Okay.
And let's not preempt the organizational report, but as a matter of fact, we have those letters and they will actually be presented to plenary. It is the constitutional obligation to do so, and it will be a travesty of justice for the Secretary General not actually to table those letters.
Yeah.
And then plenary will decide how they move forward. But as a matter of fact, we have a myriad of those letters from people who were expelled for quite a very grievous misconduct, and we'll see what happens thereafter.
News 24 has seen at least 3 letters. How many letters did you receive overall?
Wait for the organizational report. You'll be very much happy by the time.
The SG who does not share anything at all. Thank you so much for your time. I'm going to let you go because the program will be kicking off in just a short while. That was Godrich Gadi, the Secretary General of the EFF. While we move on to our next guest, will be one of my editors, Sheldon Moraes. I just want you to take a look at yesterday's happenings, where you, among the many other leaders of the EFF and members and delegates, went to the University of Johannesburg in Soweto to register. So News 24 also paid that area a visit. Take a look at what happened.
Thank you very much. It was nice being with you.
Always a pleasure, Tshidi. Always a pleasure.
This thing of mine is very big.
Yes. Okay.
Eh? This is small. Yeah, I'll change with someone.
Rati?
Yeah. Always have to be called by me.
Which things?
Those things is not for the.
We are continuing with our live coverage from Nasrec of the EFF's second National People's Assembly, the elective conference where they will be electing new leaders. We're just in a conversation with their Secretary General, Godrich Gadi, the outgoing. He wouldn't let us know if he thinks he'll return, if his name will be called out when they nominate leaders, but we'll have to wait and see. Now, yesterday, we also spoke to several leaders in the EFF, and last week, rather, I spoke to the EFF's leader, Julius Malema, just about the things that I expected. I did say earlier, today we'll hear an organizational report. We'll also get a political report from the leader of the EFF. Here are Julius Malema's own thoughts on what will go into his report to the NPA today.
Well, we'll look at where we come from, where did we start, what is the political landscape today, what are the balance of forces domestically and internationally, what are the immediate challenges that the conference will have to deal with, what are the achievements, and have we been performing as expected? Did we implement the political mandate of the first People's Assembly, which took place from the 13th to the 16th of December, 5 years ago? So those are the issues that we'll be dealing with in our political overview. Well, we'll look
So that was Julius Malema speaking about what his thoughts were going into his political report, which he will deliver in a short while here at Nasrec to the delegates who I understand are already streaming into Nasrec. From where we are sitting, where the media center is, it's relatively quiet. You just see a lot of media people, a lot of personnel, some people from the defenders, I always forget their name, the defenders of the revolution, that's their security. But I understand on the other side of plenary, that's where the shuttles are bringing in different delegates from across the country, 3,800 of them who will be coming here to nominate new leaders and to also reassess the party's policies and policy positions and where it wants to see the EFF going. Of course, this is as it moves towards the 2021 local government elections and of course the 2024 elections. Nobody plays politics not to be in power. That's the long game. Joining me now at the moment is our Fast News editor, Sheldon Moraes. Sheldon?
Good morning, Tshidi.
At some point, I was like, I brought you into a conversation with Julius Malema yesterday. He came to us to say, look at how great this conference looks, Tshidi. Have you ever seen a conference that looks this good? And maybe we must give it to them, is that so far, so good. They've put off what looks like a seamless, smooth process. We're just minutes away, apparently, from the start. They're insisting they'll start at 9. I don't think so. What do you make of the start?
Tshidi, it's hard not to compare the EFF's elective and policy conference to the one we had here 2 years ago. You and I were both here in 2017 when the ANC had its own elective conference, and it's hard not to compare the two. We're in the same venue during roughly the same time, and so far the EFF's conference has been well organized. I mean, the first day wasn't much of an of a day where we saw much of the politics happening. It was a registration day, and so far so good in terms of the smooth sailing of it. Now I think is when the EFF's organizational planning is really going to be tested, because this is where it starts. Will they be able to keep to time? Will all the delegates make it here on time? Will they be able to run the conference as they've been bragging thus far?
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, What I actually took in is that it's less hostile. It definitely is not as hostile as Nasrec was in 2017. We also had and I'm going to bring in the SANEF issue, and this also works out better because Sheldon Moraes is one of the members of the media body, SANEF, the editor's body, SANEF. Now, Floyd Shivambu yesterday took on the issue of Daily Maverick. Daily Maverick has it has been banned from covering this particular event. It obviously is a travesty, really, for media freedom. The EFF, though, is unapologetic, saying that there's no love lost. They spelled out what their relationship with Daily Maverick is, saying that it's the same as they had with NN7. Here's the deputy EFF leader, Floyd Shivambu, speaking about the issue around Daily Maverick, which a number of journalists raised during yesterday's proceedings.
Daily Maverick is a political instrument and a communication department of Pravin Gordhan's cabal. That's a fact. And they use the rogue unit, they use private intelligence to persecute political opponents and targeted. They are not objectively investigating corruption or wrongdoing in South Africa. They've got targets, and the EFF is part of their targets. So their purpose as a political instrument is to denigrate the integrity of the leadership of the EFF about everything else. But it's a political instrument. It's a propaganda instrument of the cabal, and it is dependent on the rogue unit to spread their propaganda aimed at dealing with the integrity of the leadership of the EFF. So that is our position in terms of, so if you are a media platform and an investigative platform, you should be consistent in terms of how you deal with issues. You must be consistent, you must treat all political role players equally. You can't just be dedicating all your energies against those that your funders are against in terms of the political environment. So that is the position that we have taken, and if SANEF is offended, that is their baby to nurse. We're not interested in that. It's good that they say they've reported us as members of parliament to parliament. We'll deal with it there, and we can assure you that it won't go any further than that. It's a frivolous complaint which does not deserve to be dignified by any form of response. So that is our position, and so there's no confusion about it.
So there you have it, Floyd Shivambu, Deputy President of the EFF, no harm, no foul, no love lost, not bothered that the Daily Maverick is not here, and that is outrage, really, from the editor's body, SANEF. Sheldon, I do get it. I do get that there is an issue of freedom and press freedom and us having access to particular spaces. What do you make of what happened between Daily Maverick? But I must also very quickly say that to an extent, I do hear what the EFF was saying. I spoke to Mbuyiseni Ndlozi yesterday. What do you make of the whole saga?
Tshidi, I think, at the end of the day, it's the audience, I think, who ultimately suffer from both ends. The EFF would like to get its message across. As you mentioned, politics is about power, it's about governing. It's where the EFF wants to be. It wants to grow. I think in very honest moments, the EFF leaders will tell you that, and they're very proud of their growth. So I think if you don't get your message out, it is detrimental to both the organization and the media as well. I think there are hard questions which the EFF generally doesn't shy away from. They're not the first party to be at the end of investigative reporting. They've mentioned questions and concerns with the style of investigative reporting at times that the Daily Maverick has practiced. But I think that is par for the course with any investigative reporting. I think it is a shame. I think there would have been a lot to gain on both sides.
Absolutely.
Having Daily Maverick here, and it could have been handled a better way. SANEF is on record with saying it is unhappy, and I think that is a really important thing to note. Not because defending the Daily Maverick's reporting, but I have to be clear here, it's about the access to information and the freedom to report on what is the country's third biggest party. I mean, this is not, some provincial party that only has a niche here. This is the third biggest party, and if you look at its trajectory, it does represent a lot of interests, a lot of pertinent interests, and a large sector of the South African society. So I think it is important for all the major media houses to be here. I do hear, as we know, we've gone through this with many a party, especially, we were talking earlier about the ANC. Then as well, space to accommodate the media was something that is considered in the logistics. However, when pushed, both Julius Malema, Floyd Chivambu, Godrich Gadi as well, saying, look, we don't agree with not only the Daily Mavericks reporting, but seeing them as a political player. And I think that is something of concern and something that needs to be addressed in some sort of way, whether it's across the table, which would be ideal, whether it be, through the courts, through parliament, but in some way it needs to be addressed.
I find that I agree with you on two fronts where from where I'm sitting, there's a question of principle. I think that whenever any aspect of the media is under threat, it is important for the media to take some sort of a stand, because ultimately it could be us tomorrow. I think you heard me yesterday saying to Julius Malema, am I next? Will you ban me from your events? Because that does matter. But I also think that we must start thinking of a way forward. I took an issue, and a part of me always thinks the media must also reflect in what this means, because this is not the first time this has happened. I want to go back to NN7, where they were being praised by even media players for their decisions around NN7, who also recognize NN7 to not be a legitimate media house. Is that not also where we have gone wrong? Because for me, my issue back then was there are young journalists who are being harassed on the streets in the name of the EFF, in the name of Julius Malema, and I've raised the same thing with Julius. And now my issue is, if the media had failed to act then, are we not found wanting today when it's Daily Maverick and we raise the issue? The lack of consistency. I saw yesterday on Twitter people saying, well, at some point ANC said ban City Press and nobody said anything. But at some point somebody said nobody cares about what's happening at IOL because of the battles between the PIC, the ANC and Sekunjalo. But at the heart of it, there is a media house, there are journalists, there's messaging, there's a constituency that gets to read. Those people are affected. And we are not saying anything as a media body, and we're not saying it, and even if we are not speaking with as much passion and exuberance and acting on those instances. And that's coming to haunt us. The DA has also been found wanting, with the Sowetan once upon a time being banned. So are we not also, is it not time for us to reflect? And I think we spent 2019 saying, let's reflect. Something is wrong. I do think Daily Maverick and the EFF must talk and sort themselves out. But what about our responsibility as a media fraternity?
Tshidi, I'll address your questions, which are really pertinent in two ways. I think the first one is to say, look, we have to reflect. I think always as the media, and a lot of that is happening within SANEF, within the media in general. One difficulty is, describing the media as this amorphous body. And like you rightfully said, there were media houses who at the time with the ANN7, because of their ownership by the Guptas and the political narrative around that, who
the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Is my friend.
There was a part
right,
of that.
and that is I want to be clear, that is wrong.
Yeah.
Right? Because as you mentioned, there are journalists who are trying to do their job. SANEF, and it may not, stand out in people's minds now, was on the record to say and address the EFF to say, look, this is not the best way to go about it. There are issues that you may have with their owners, right? But at the end of the day, these are the journalists on the ground. They're the ones who are feeling the brunt of it.
Absolutely.
So I think we have to be on the record in terms of stating that was the position that was taken. could we, in terms of going back and reflecting and saying, did we shout loud enough? Were different media houses, did we stand up loud enough? I think that's something we have to take on the chin and say, look, how can we do better next time? And maybe this is the next time in which we've learned from that. That's the one thing. And I think that is really important. And I think it also is, the second part is to agree with you, to say we have to reflect. I mean, for instance, you mentioned the City Press one, and we can go into each of those details at the same. Jackson Mthembu was a high profile member at the time.
Don't buy City Press, don't buy.
100%. It wasn't, however, to counter that, necessarily an ANC party position, which I think is a bit different in this instance, right? And we could agree to disagree on that one. He was a leader.
Yeah.
There was a stage when Helen Zille didn't like the reporting while she was Western Cape Premier in a number of the independent newspapers.
She attacked the journalists.
And she attacked the journalists. And again, at that stage, the media did say, this is wrong. You can't take away subscriptions and potential advertising because you are aggrieved with the kind of coverage you're receiving. And I think we've also got to take stock of that in terms of saying, look, what has been done. However, I do agree with you in saying, okay, how loud did we shout? Did we shout loud enough? Did we do enough in terms of that? And the consistency to say, look, are we giving it the same energy and resources that we gave at the time?
I'm actually gonna leave it at that, because we are actually going to go into the plenary to see what's happening. That's what Julius Malema is expected to deliver within minutes, from what I understand, a political report where the conference will start off officially and they'll move towards electing a new leader by this evening. They'll nominate, rather, from the floor. It's an open process. Stick with us. We're going to bring you that. We'll bring you live his political report. We'll bring the organizational report. A lot of coverage coming from News 24 from here at Nasrec as the EFF moves towards its second National People's Assembly. For News 24, my name is Tshidi Madia, coming to you live from Nasrec.